Welcome. Thank you all for joining this session on the keys to unboxing revitalized growth. My name is Ashley Shapiro. I'm Senior Director of Growth. I will be stepping in for our Chief Activation Officer, Mike Montagna. So let's get into it. What are we going to talk about today? Today we're going to talk about stalled growth, a common tale. I think all of us have experienced the boom that happened during the pandemic, the buy-in to e-commerce advertising, and the subsequent recent stall due to macroeconomic factors. So what we're going to talk about today is a case study based off of one of our clients. We will not be mentioning the name of the client or the category, as I know for a fact a lot of their competitors are here. So we'll have that discretion. But to kind of kick things off, for if you're at an agency with your brands, if you're at a brand, how many in the audience have had any type of recent stalling or stagnation of brand growth? Raise your hands. Okay. So a good chunk of the audience. Let's talk about how we fixed it for one of the brands that we work with today. So a common tale for many advertisers, 2018 to 2019, saw a lot of buy-in about Amazon. This is specifically looking at Amazon growth for this client that we're discussing. We saw a lot of brands hitch their wagon to the Amazon scale and consumers adopting Amazon Abound. Then you see 2020, pandemic, share of wallet changes completely. Consumers are no longer able to travel. Consumers are no longer able to go to restaurants and eat. And as a consequence of that, there is a mass buy-in towards e-commerce. We saw the most adoption of e-commerce across the board, from C-suites to consumers to marketers scaling and marketers' jobs. And then in 2021, things still hadn't completely opened up yet. We saw for this client continued scale, time over time, consistent performance improvement. But then what happened in 2022? This is about the time that things came back to reality for a lot of the brands we see today, and exactly what happened to this brand. We were seeing and posting enormous growth year over year over year. And then we noticed a consistent trend month over month throughout the year of 2022, where things started to decline, that growth started to decline and demand tapered off. Now, we still had aspirational goals we had to achieve in 2022, so quick action was required. So what did we do? What now? The question that we start with is, what really impacts performance? Right? So at the highest level, the first thing that we need to understand is that there's going to be things undoubtedly that are out of our control. There's macroeconomic factors, inflation, hot topic. We're in an election year, also a cause for consumers to withhold spending, loss of disposable income. But there's also simultaneously a substantial number of things that are within our control, all the way from controlling consumer sentiment to your channel tactic mix, etc. So what we started off with this brand is controlling the controllables, all the way from what does their media mix look like? How are they measuring it? How are we testing new strategies? Are we evolving as consumer behavior has evolved, as the share of wallet has evolved? And are we standing in the ways that we should be to react to the consumer shifting of demand? What we do at Code 3 is we do what's called a full body diagnostic on a consistent basis for all of our brands. What this means is a holistic overview of what is going on, where the gaps are, and how we can react to those gaps. Now, we're going to talk about the toolkit more here in a second, but essentially what we'll do is evaluate using our tools what is happening real time from our consumer base to measurement, etc. Then the next thing we'll take a look at is your media mix serving you? Is your media mix, as it is calibrated right now, going after the customer throughout the entirety of the funnel in their journey? There's a statistic that says 60% of performance is driven by your creative. You can have the right media mix, you can have the right targeting, but if you are speaking to them incorrectly when you get in front of them, you're not going to see performance follow through. Taking a look at creative is crucial. And last but not least, are your tactics aligned? We might have different teams that handle our branding in our Amazon and our D2C. That is not how the consumer perceives us. The consumer perceives us as one consistent brand. If you cause any type of disjointment within that, the consumer will notice and it will have consequences. So let's talk about the toolbox. AMC is a very powerful tool. If you've used it, if you've not used it, I think it's widely renowned as a huge unlock for brand scale and really helped us to diagnose what was going on with this client. Audience overlaps reports were also crucial for us. What we started to look at and understand with a lot of these third-party tools is we didn't have a market problem. There was not necessarily a reduction in demand abound. Actually, the issue is something that was very much within our control. We had a demand capture over-reliance. Now, as you all know, if any of you experience Prime Day, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, what do? You completely invest in your demand capture due to the extreme demand. What is the long-term consequence of that? If you do not do demand generation, you start to shrink the pie of customers that you can get in front of. So what we understood with our analysis is there is a substantial number of consumers who are within the target audience of what we're looking for, actively seeking out and interacting with our product category that we were not getting in front of. We just simply were not reaching them. In addition to that, there was many shoppers who viewed our brand who weren't buying our products. So it's a simultaneous reach and conversion rate issue. So we used a large quantity of tools to help us start to unlock and answer and respond to some of these issues. The first being the audience overlap report, which we just discussed. The second being the path to conversions report. Why this is an interesting report is that we were able to see what tangential categories did a consumer come from before they purchase from our client, and how can we reach a consumer earlier in their purchase journey. We used forecasting tools to tell us exactly how to reach consumers who are in market for us, and the brand search reporting to start to understand, okay, we know we're overly reliant on demand capture. How do we measure the impact of some of this awareness? ROAS was a big issue for our client. ROAS was a huge focus. ROAS, as many marketers know, cannot be blindly applied to all tactics. Just does not work that way. And last but not least, how do we reach and at what frequency do we need to reach consumers in order to drive conversion? So getting to the bottom of our media mix created some silos about conversations around tough silos. So one of the things that we discovered, which is very frequent with a lot of the brands that we work with, is you have an Amazon team, you have your digital team, you have your branding team, and they all have different budgets, and those budgets are handled separately. And what we realized with this client is due to those silos, we were not necessarily using Amazon to its full potential. Branding was being done with the branding team. D2C was handling a lot of demand generation. They were treating Amazon exclusively as their demand capture platform. Amazon can be so much more. And what is the benefit of making Amazon so much more is it has the full end-to-end measurement capabilities. Rather than doing streaming TV on a separate platform where you can't connect the dots as well, you can do that through the Amazon DSP and really get a full understanding of your consumer base. So what we did after having those tough conversations with the client and really proving out our case is we gave them on Amazon what is a more robust, well-rounded media mix that really was a healthier approach to Amazon in general, shifting them from just a two-tactic approach to a really well-rounded approach with a much heavier lean in prospecting. As we mentioned earlier, we weren't reaching a ton of the audience that would be interested in them. This was our way of tackling that, in addition to using some additional tactics on search to help convert them better once we did get them engaged with the brand. In addition to that, we leveraged 3 new products that we paired perfectly with our strategy. First and foremost, you see Twitch guaranteed campaigns. This allows you on Twitch to get access to premier inventory. Also, Amazon persona audiences. If you are not leveraging these would highly recommend. Essentially what this is you can work with Amazon to create reach audiences that are identical to the type of personas that you want to get in front of. What this allows you to do, rather than going and slicing and dicing a little different demographics, psychographics, interest behaviors, etc., is Amazon will do this on the back end, and then you can plug and play it into a lot of your awareness initiatives, thus making the audience you're getting in front of that much more qualified. And then last but not least, shifting STV and OLV over to the Amazon DSP, really unlocking with a lot of their premium inventory we had access to, and then being able to measure it. Now that brings me to the final point. Your ability to drive success is only as good as your ability to measure success, right? They come hand in hand. What we were able to do with the tactics that we leverage for this client is turn around that declining growth we saw month over month over month. You'll see in 2022 able to sustain double-digit growth and then increase and snowball that growth moving into 2023 and beyond. And how we did that was two major KPIs that we held ourselves accountable to. Incremental reach, which as we mentioned, we weren't reaching a lot of the audiences we were supposed to be reaching, and increase in branded search rate. So what is branded search rate? A lot of you might be familiar, but for those that are not, branded search rate is the volume of branded searches divided by the total number of impressions across all of the tactics that you're using on Amazon. Now, logic suggests that as you move up the funnel and as you reach an audience that might not be as qualified or maybe as far down in their consumer journey, maybe more in the consideration phase, you should see this percentage decline because you're starting to reach an audience just higher in the funnel earlier in their buying journey. Now, because of that audience persona capability we used with Amazon, using the premium inventory and really getting in front of the right, highly qualified audience, we're actually able to increase that branded search rate by 108%, which is very remarkable that it increased at all, but that level was a huge nod to us hitting the right approach. And one reason for that we feel is really important to mention is when you're looking at this graph or this chart or this Venn diagram, whatever you want to call it, essentially the takeaway here is if a consumer, and we can measure this using AMC, sees DSP on its own, their conversion rate is 0.14%. If they see sponsored ads on their own, their conversion rate is 0.35%. We can measure using AMC if a consumer sees all three of these tactic types, these ad types, their conversion rate is 2.5%. This is the value of having a full funnel, healthy media mix that can drive performance for you. And this is the power of understanding the value of those items by unlocking measurement using AMC. So we'll leave you with 3 thought starters. And then if you guys want to discuss any more, we also have a booth over there. Feel free to stop by and say hello. But if you are feeling stagnation in your brand growth, I will tell you for a fact, there are factors right now outside of our control. There's macroeconomic factors, there's consumer uncertainty. The first thing to start thinking about is, are your budgets working for you? Are you healthy and full funnel as you should be? Or are you maybe overly reliant on ROAS and thus pushing yourself to only rely on demand capture initiatives, which is very short-sighted in terms of what's going to drive growth? Are you fully leveraging the tools and insights available? Are you getting in front of the right consumers, and are you unlocking how you achieve that with the right types of tools that you have at your disposal? And last but not least, is the comfort of a strong ROAS. I think everybody here probably has heard EBITDA, profitability ad nauseum at this point, but is the focus on that hindering scale? And how do you create a narrative that gets the C-suite, CFO, et cetera, comfortable with higher budgets and more well-rounded budgets in order to really unlock what could be phenomenal scale? So thank you so much all for the time today. I hope this is informative to all of you. Have a good rest of your day.